I'm a trained criminal investigator. I'm a trained fraud investigator. And I'm a trained narcotic investigator. But the thing that has caused my spirit to be disquieted is that I was motivated by Mr. Ratnese's comments in the newspaper recently during the BHC inquiry. And he made a comment. His comment was, there was insufficient evidence, and he used the words, it may have been unethical behavior, but not criminal behavior. And then during the Privy Council conclusion, I read where Justice Huffman echoed Mr. Ratnese's sentiments, and he concluded this: the behavior may have been unethical, but not criminality. But the public have a right to know whether or not politicians are unethical. Taking in consideration the comments of Ratnese and Justice Huffman. And I wanted people to get a balance. 2003, there was an importation of drugs at the Dunkley's Dairy organization. A huge shipment. At the end of the day, the total value, street value, was about $3.375 million on street value. But intelligence suggested that there were two previous shipments that we missed. One would suggest that they were trial runs. One of the suspects that we eventually arrested worked at Dunkley's Dairy. And I know that as a result of the investigation, two of the accused actually lived on Dunkley's Dairy property, Mike Dunkley's properties up back of the Bermuda Flores down Middle Road, South Road, Devonshire. We arrested 3 people, 2 white guys and 1 black guy. As the investigation progressed, as the commanding officer of the division, I went to Mike Dunkley's office one day. In fact, I called him in advance to give him an update. That's a courtesy that I used to give people. Give them an update as to how the progress of the investigation. And whilst in Dunkley's office, he gets this telephone call, I should say. And very shortly after the telephone call, a renowned drug dealer walks into Dunkley's office, and they appeared to know one another from the type of greeting. And from my background of investigation, I looked at both people and looked at their demeanor, and there was a degree of discomfort. So I excused myself, but because the conversation with him and I had just about concluded in any event. And I returned to the office, and I discussed with the chief investigator, one of my inspectors, as to what I did just witness. And there was a request, well, Chief, we need to arrest Dunkley on suspicion of conspiracy. But I made a decision as the commanding officer, no, we'll leave Dunkley for now. Let's just continue the investigation, and we'll investigate around Mike Dunkley. But during this process of the investigation, Jonathan Smith calls me one day. Jonathan, the former commissioner of police, summonses me to his office, and he demanded to see the original file. And I questioned, why do you want the original file? Why the original file? Why not a copy? I can give you all the copies. And he demanded the original file, and I objected. And so there was this continuous diatribe between he and I about he demands the original file, and I insist that you're not getting the original file. Because you see, I know what's happened to files in the past. I had been in narcotics, say 5 years now, 5.5, and this guy has never, ever asked for an investigation file before. Never asked me for an investigation file before. And that aroused my suspicion. My tentacles went out. But I satisfied myself that you're not going to get the file from me. You can have the file, but you're not getting it from me. And I returned to the office, and I spoke to the head investigator once again, and I said to him that Your boss wants the original file, so you better take it over to him. He himself questioned why the original file. And I said, well, that's what he's demanding. He's demanding the original file. We later learned, contrary to what has been reported previously, that it was he himself that took the charges of assault and police off the file and not the Director of Public Prosecution's office. But as time went by, the next, what I consider to be attempted sabotage of the case, was the present Commissioner, George Jackson, telephones me demanding that I return a computer that we seized during the investigation. And the computer could be good evidence. And I objected, once again, because we hadn't had the opportunity to examine it. But he gave me a direct order to return the computer to the owner, one of the suspects, to be exact. And I was shocked, actually, because George Jackson was a former head of narcotics. And he, of all people, should know better from his criminal background or narcotic background in that division. But I was under instructions, under direct instructions, and I returned the file. So that's the second attempt, my opinion. That's the second attempt at sabotage of this case. But the third one, which really baffled us, it was about 2 weeks into the investigation when Michael Dunkley brings the 3 accused to police headquarters, encourages them to make allegations of assault against them by police. This was encouraged and supported by the former Commissioner Jonathan Smith. So much so that the six of the investigators of this case were almost immediately transferred out of narcotics, caused another somewhat of a delay because then I had to reassign the case to others to continue it on. He not only had them transferred, but he initiated a criminal investigation against these 6, which went parallel with the narcotic investigation, which we felt that it was unfair, another attempt at sabotage. But at the end of the day, I'm quite satisfied that we went before the courts. 2 of the accused were found guilty of conspiracy to import. They were sentenced to 10 years in prison. 1 of the accused was acquitted. And then as time went by, the 6 officers went before a court of law. And they too were found not guilty of any wrongdoing. And I conclude by saying that there is a God. You see, despite the obstacles that we faced, we were able to secure a conviction, and we were able to cause 6 officers, innocent officers, to be exonerated by a court of law. But my spirit is reaching out to the members of the public. Look at the circumstances which I've just relayed to you. Think of what Red Neese's decision was in a previous inquiry. Think of what Justice Hoffman alluded to in one of his summations in the Privy Council decision. And ask yourselves a question. You be the jury, members of the public. The members of the public needs to be the jury. Was Mike Dunkley's behavior unethical? Did it border on criminality? And that is perverting the course of justice? Despite us having insufficient evidence to put him before a court of law for conspiracy to import. The other question I would ask, what happened to or who benefited financially from the 2 shipments that we didn't seize, the 2 shipments that we lost? Because if you want to parallel the street value of the one that we prosecuted, $3.3 million, there were hundreds or maybe thousands, millions of dollars that someone has benefited from the 2 lost shipments. Who has the money? Who benefited? That's the question I leave with you. You be the judge. Was it unethical or was it criminal?